Okay. Hi, Jason.
Hi.
I am Kristen Miller. Thank you so much and welcome to Candidate Conversations, brought to you by Fort Bend Voters League. I'm sure you've heard of us. We're a nonpartisan organization that's dedicated to voter engagement. And in fact, our motto, you might not know, is bringing civility to public discourse.
Thank you for having me. It's been I'm glad to be here and share my message with Fort Bend Voters League and any of the voters out there.
That's wonderful. We're so glad. And thank you so much for taking your time today. I know everybody's lives are so busy, so I appreciate setting aside a time for us. Before we get started, I just want to clarify, you're Jason Dobrolecki, and you're running for Fort Bend ISD trustee position number 5.
You got it.
Okay. So tell me, what is your biggest motivation for wanting to serve Fort Bend ISD, and what uniquely qualifies you for that position?
Sure. So I live in Cedar Plantation on the east side of the district with my wife and our 3 daughters. I've got one in 1st grade, one entering kindergarten next year, and then we've got an 18-month-old at home who will be in Fort Bend ISD soon as well. So as my oldest started entering school age, we started getting involved with the district, started coming to some of the local meetings, started coming to some of the board meetings and listening to what was going on, and decided, as I got more and more involved, saw some things, some issues that I thought that I could probably help out with. And as we've gotten more and more deeply involved in the district, I thought this was a great opportunity, a great chance to get a little bit more involved and help with future education of my own kids and to help with the education of my neighbors and the community at large. Okay.
Do you bring any special talents or unique experiences?
Sure. So as a professional, I'm a chief marketing officer. I currently work for the Evelyn Rubenstein Jewish Community Center up in Houston. Prior to that, I was in executive leadership roles with both the YMCA of Greater Houston as well as the YMCA of Greater Indianapolis before we moved here to Houston. So nonprofit world, community engagement, community involvement in decisions and programs is kind of what my background is. I have an MBA, and after getting my MBA, I stayed in the nonprofit realm because I enjoy that community service aspect. I enjoy engaging with the community and finding those cooperative opportunities to improve services for our neighbors.
What do you think are the 3 biggest challenges the district is facing, and what solutions do you think would best fit?
Yeah, so over the last couple of years, I've watched a lot of decisions in the board, a lot of decisions that have been made, and a lot of decisions that have gone back on after there's a community, let's call it pushback. I think a lot of those issues, whether it's rezoning, rebalancing schools, academies, the list goes on of what the issues have been over the last few years, but I think it all dials back to an issue of a broken process of how the board and how the administration engages with the community. We've seen over and over again a sort of faux engagement process where the board, or I shouldn't say the board, the administration puts together these community focus groups or these community task forces. And what we see happen is that there is a decision kind of already in place and a direction that they want to go. These task forces are put together, and our neighbors and community members, spend their time and their efforts coming to these, and they put out a deliverable and they make these recommendations, and there's not a direct line to the board from that point. Those recommendations then go to the administration, and in many cases, we see the administration swap out those community recommendations for some of their own recommendations. And then when it's presented to the board, it's presented as, these are the recommendations that came from the committee.
Right.
But it's really not. There's things that are added, things that are taken away in varying degrees. And that has that has created a trust deficit within the community. They feel like they're getting involved in these things, but they don't really feel like
They're having efficacy.
they don't feel like their voice is really being heard. They feel like they're being a pawn in a process. They're being the one that they're going to point out and say, well, this came out of the committee, but in many cases it really didn't. It was swapped out with some of the administration's recommendations. So I think that has created a trust deficit that really needs to be addressed. I would love to see a process where the committees are making recommendations. These task forces, community task forces, are making recommendations. Those are going directly to the board. The administration also has their recommendations going to the board. And much like we see with our national politics, where you've got the Senate who passes one thing and the House that passes another, and then there's a reconciliation process. I think we need a transparent process like that, where there's a community directive, there's an administrative directive. And those two pieces go to the board, and then they're kind of reconciled in an open community, an open space where all of the community has the ability to hear it.
Okay, that's wonderful. What involvement have you had in the community or the district that you feel puts you in touch with the needs of the students and the needs of the teachers and the needs of the parents? I'd like you to address all three separately.
Sure. So, I have my own kids in the district, so I'm involved in their school. When we started getting involved with this, when I started getting involved with the district a number of years ago, there was a group of us in our neighborhood that felt like we needed some advocacy for the eastern portion of the district. So we gathered and we started to strategize on how we could do that, and we started forming a advocacy group on the east side that really engaged teachers, engaged parents, not just in Sienna Plantation, but across the entire eastern side of the district. We've really built a good, engaged community on our side of town, and part of the reason that I'm running is to return some of that voice to the teachers, and return that voice to the parents, and to have them have a seat at the table.
I think you touched on this a little bit earlier, but Fort Bend County has been growing by leaps and bounds, and a lot of that is very socioeconomically diverse from campus to campus. What do you think the district can do to best address the achievement gap, ensuring that every child has opportunity to succeed?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you touched on two different pieces there, and that is where we're seeing growth in our community, as well as some of the more established areas that have a little bit more of a socioeconomic challenge. And those are different issues, and those are different solutions. We've seen a hesitancy from the board and from the administration to build bricks and mortar. We have schools across our district, north, south, east, west, that are busting at the seams. And we have some schools that have excess capacity. I think that we've seen a history of the administration, the board, hesitant to build bricks and mortar. And because of that, we're kind of behind the eight ball in some of the fastest growing areas of our district. The southeast section of the community, the high school 12 was put into the bond just last fall. But we're not far away from the northwest section of the community as well, that is growing extremely quickly. We're going to need additional capacity up there. For far too long, we've been behind the eight ball. For the past 10, 15 years, the PASA data has been remarkably accurate. And there's no reason for us to be where we are in lacking bricks and mortar and places for kids to go to school. And we've got schools that are at 120% plus capacity. We really need to get ahead of the eight ball, really have a 10-year plan of where we're going to have schools, and make sure that we're building for the future, not for just the next 2 or 3 years. But I'll loop back to the socioeconomic issues. We also have schools that are under capacity, and we've seen a little bit of movement recently with Willow Ridge getting a P-TECH program, and with Marshall High School getting an early college program, and those are fantastic. They're great starts. But I think we need more of that. We used to have a engineering academy at Marshall that did very, very well, and it was moved to Elkins. I would love to see some additional programs being opened up in Marshall and Willow Ridge. There's been talk for years of a law academy being placed at Marshall, and we're better than a school named after Thurgood Marshall. So I think there's some great opportunities to bring some additional programming to those schools to help incentivize more students to come to those campuses.
Now, Fort Bend in general is a very, very diverse community. Over 90 languages and dialects are spoken. How do you feel the district can best address the diversity to ensure every child has equal opportunity to exceed?
The diversity of the district is probably one of its most attractive pieces. I know for my wife and I, it's the reason why we moved where we did. It's the reason why we came to Fort Bend ISD, because of its reputation for high quality education and for the diversity of the school district and the county. We love dropping our daughter off at school every day and seeing the breadths of backgrounds of the kids that she goes to school with, and the families and our neighbors. So I think that's a feather in the cap of Fort Bend ISD, and that they're doing some, and not just Fort Bend ISD, the county overall, that attracting that diversity and having that as part of the educational experience for our kids is a fantastic thing.
Jason, I want to thank you so much again for taking time out of your day to meet with us and let your voice be heard and let people get to know you a little bit.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. And just a reminder to our voters that early voting starts April 22nd and continues through April 30th, with voting day on May 4th. Thank you so much. We'll see you at the polls.